तो हेलो एवरीवन एंड वेलकम बैक टू चैनल। सो आज हम वीक 8 देखेंगे एंड दिस विल बी आवर लास्ट वीक फॉर क्विज 2। सो विदाउट फर्दर अडू लेट्स जस्ट गेट स्टार्टेड। सो फर्स्ट थिंग इज क्लोनिंग, जो हमने वीक 1 to 4 में देखा था, डीप कॉपी, शैलो कॉपी एंड वो सब। इट इज जस्ट the more detailed version of it, that's all. So first thing is normal assignment. So normal assignment, what normal assignment is like this: E2 is equal to E1. Okay, two references of the same thing, like employee and copied or copied using equal assignment. Okay, so equal assignment क्या होता है? What equal assignment is? देखो, equal assignment क्या है? It's like same thing, same reference, but two different names. Okay, it's like same name but two different names. That's all it is. अब मान लो if your name at home is different and if your original name is different. So if originally you got accepted for a job, okay, so then your the nickname also got accepted, like both of you are same person, both of the names are same person. So whatever changes happens to the original person, it will happen to the nickname also. Okay, or let's say I have one box which has two labels, sugar and salt. Okay, two labels are put on the same box, sugar and salt. Okay, now if I change the contents to something else, then it will get changed for both the labels. Okay, so now it doesn't contain sugar or salt either. Okay, or let's say it so equal assignment is just that thing. Okay, so like change both pointing the same thing. Okay, just different names. Okay, like यहाँ पे we have defined one employee with E1. So E1 is one thing, E2 just references this. Okay, so like दूसरा नाम E2 का, something like that. Okay, so it's the same thing. It's like putting another label on the same box. In other words, E2 is just another name for E1. Okay, it is not copied, just reference. Okay, so E2 is just a pointer to this location only. Okay, that's all the equal is. Okay, so when you do equal assignment, equality assignment, and then you change the E2 dot name, so the E1's name is also being changed because E2 is just another name for E1. So the name for E1 will also be changed. So the employee name now becomes Eknath. Okay, so that's how the equality works. Now comes the clone method, which is basically provided by the object class, that as it is written here. It creates a bitwise copy, basically meaning a shallow copy. Now what is actually a shallow copy? So let's first go down here. Shallow copy copies the top level structure, okay, of the object, but does not clone the nested objects. Okay, like just know the definition. Now let's go back to the example and you will understand. Okay, so E2, shallow copy, which is the clone method, actually copies the reference. Okay, so actually copies the structure. Okay, not fully, but it creates a new copy at least. Okay, like it was this thing just creates a new reference, but E2 actually creates a new copy, but it does not copy everything. Okay, let's see what all it copies firstly. Okay, so we are just defining. Okay, so every if you want to use the clone method, then it should implement the clonable class. Okay, interface, clonable interface, sorry. Okay, yeah, implement, sorry, I just woke up. Never mind. Okay, so clonable interface. Okay, so let's see first thing here. Okay, employee E1. So we create a new employee object. Okay, fine, nothing to worry about here. Okay, this is one specific memory block. Okay, E1. Okay, not this one. Okay. E1 is a first thing. Okay, E1 is first thing here that we need to see, and then it's this thing, date, birthday. Okay, so this is one specific memory thing inside it. Okay, it is like a completely different thing. E1 uses this thing. Okay, E1 uses this thing, but E1 does not define it. Okay, let's see what it does first. So now E1 contains the name to be through, 21,500 to be a salary, and birthday, whatever the birthday is defined just above that. Okay, now comes the main thing that we want to see, which is the E2. E2 clone is called on E1. Okay, so what clone does, clone actually creates a new copy. Okay, this actually creates another object which is by the name of E2, but only copies top level structure. So top level structure का मतलब क्या होता है, जो भी ये है मतलब उसके खुद के इंस्टेंस वेरिएबल्स है, मीनिंग एनी शेयर्ड रिसोर्स, लाइक शेयर्ड रिसोर्स क्या है यहाँ पे, दिस थिंग, नॉट दिस वन, दिस थिंग, डेट बर्थडे, ये कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट चीज है ना, दिस इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट मेमोरी लोकेशन. ओके, अगर how do you know that it is completely different? Let's say you do not use any employee, nothing. Okay, you just write this line only. Okay, like the date birthday thing. So will that give any error? No, it is still a date in itself. Okay, so that's how you know that it is a completely different thing, and the E1 and E2 are just sharing that. Okay, so meaning any shared resource, for example birthday here, will be the same memory location for both. Okay, let's say यहाँ पे इतना अगर हम date की जगह we define a list here, yeah, we define a dict here. Okay, कुछ भी which is independent of the employee class. Okay, तो वो कॉपी नहीं होगा. एनी इंडिपेंडेंट रिसोर्स दैट इज बीइंग यूज्ड बाय बोथ वोंट बी कॉपीड. ओके, बाय इटसेल्फ. ओके, शैलो कॉपी का मतलब ये होता है. ओके, सो नाउ डेट बर्थडे, दिस इज द independent thing that is being shared by both. Okay, so this won't be copied. So E1 के पास अपना नाम, अपना सैलरी, अपना बर्थडे है, अपना बर्थडे नहीं, सॉरी, but it references the birthday in memory location this one. Okay, now E2 जब कॉपी हो रहा है, so it will have its own name. अभी के लिए कॉपी हो रहा है, सो अभी के लिए तो इट विल हैव दिस ओन नेम ध्रुव एंड एवरीथिंग विल बी सेम 21500 एंड बीडी. ओके, नाउ वी चेंज द नेम फॉर E2, बट याद रखना E2 के अपने इंस्टेंस वेरिएबल्स हैं दीज थ्री थिंग्स. E2 के अपने इंस्टेंस वेरिएबल्स हैं दीज थ्री थिंग्स. ओके, सो जो इंस्टेंस सॉरी हाँ दीज टू थिंग्स, सो जो वो अपने इंस्टेंस वेरिएबल्स है मतलब जो खुद के लिए खुद ही डिफाइन हुए हैं एंड खुद ही यूज हो रहे हैं. सो E2 का नेम बस चेंज होगा क्योंकि E2 हैज इट्स ओन डिफरेंट नेम, सो इट विल बिकम एकनाथ नाउ. ओके, बट E1 में चेंज नहीं आएगा. E1's name won't be changed because E1 is separate. E1 has its own instance variables and E2 has its own instance variables. So while copying E2, we have used shallow copying, so it will only copy the top level structure and it will not copy the shared resources. Okay, and what are shared resources? Those are those resources which can exist independently on their own, without needing the class itself. Okay, in a way. Okay, ठीक है, तो ये हो गया. सो नाउ आफ्टर दैट यहाँ पे मेन एक और बात आती है, E2 में हमने बर्थडे बदला है. ओके, E2 दैट सेट बर्थडे. सो नाउ लेट्स सी व्हाट सेट बर्थडे डज. सेट बर्थडे फर्स्ट सेट्स द बर्थडे. ओके, सो इट्स चेंजिंग द बर्थडे itself. ओके, सो यहाँ पे बर्थडे चेंज हो रहा है एंड व्हाट इज दिस, ये वही चीज है जो हमने यहाँ पे डिफाइन की है, डेट बर्थडे. ओके, नो सॉरी, ये वाले वो नहीं है, हाँ सॉरी, ये वाली वो चीज़ है, ये वाली, बिकॉज इट इज टेकिंग मतलब इनपुट. ओके, सो ये वाली चीज़ मतलब जो हमने यहाँ पे डिफाइन की है, ये वाली लाइन दैट इज बीइंग कन्वर्ट, दैट इज बीइंग सेंट टू हियर. ओके, वो वाली नहीं, वो तो अपना बस इंस्टेंस वेरिएबल्स है. ठीक, ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे सेट बर्थडे जैसे E2 के लिए हुआ तो E2 का बर्थडे बदला, मतलब ये बर्थडे अब नहीं रहा, E2 का बर्थडे ये वाला बन गया. And since E1 and E2 are using the same shared resource and we have used shallow copy, इसलिए चेंज ये बर्थडे ही हुआ. एंड क्योंकि इस बर्थडे को डायरेक्टली E2 ने चेंज कर दिया, सो E1's बर्थडे विल आल्सो बी चेंज टू दिस वन. ओके, इसलिए जब यू विल सी द आउटपुट, बोथ द बर्थडेज विल बी सेम. Why? Because E2 changed it, but since it is a shallow copy and the top level structure is only copied, so that's why E1's birthday also got changed. Okay, so now this thing becomes more clear. Copy is the top level structure of the object but does not clone the nested objects. Okay, in this case our nested object is this one. Okay, changes to mutable nested objects in one copy affect the another. That's what we saw. Okay, we changed the nested object here, and since it was not copied, that's why it got changed for E1 also. Now deep copy. Deep copy is recursively copying everything. Okay, if you're not being able to understand everything, so deep copy is copying everything. जो भी है सब copy होगा. Clone method by default does shallow copy. Okay, clone method only shallow copy ही support करता है by default. अगर आपको deep copy चाहिए, if you want deep copy, then you have to explicitly override it, and with what you need to override it with a custom deep copy code. Okay, now we will see what is the custom deep copy code. Okay, these are definitions are same. These definitions are same. Not no need to worry about that. Now here comes the thing. Okay, clone. First, it throws clone not support exception. Okay, this is the syntax. Okay, so now employee cloned is equal to super dot clone. Whenever you call super dot clone, it will do shallow copy. Okay, just remember this. Okay, आसान भाषा में आसानी के लिए just remember that whenever you call clone method, it will just shallow copy. That's it. Okay, so what it will do, it will copy its own elements. Okay, name and salary. Okay, and here comes the important thing. This is how the birthday is being copied. Okay, clone dot birthday date birthday dot clone. Okay, this is a syntax of deep copying mutable object. Okay, जो भी आपका है मतलब अलग अगर if you have a custom implementation then ये नाम्स बदल जाएंगे but the syntax will stay the same. Okay, syntax will stay the same. Okay, ठीक है. So this creates a new copy of the shared resource या pointer. Okay, what was the shared resource या pointer? This thing, date birthday. Okay, this is a shared resource या pointer. So now this thing will also be copied wherever you will call copy. Okay. Okay. So now let's see how it works. Okay, so now the same thing we have defined here also, but now we do even dot clone. So now it will shallow copy the instance variables and everything that it can, and for the shared resources it will use this code to copy that. Okay, deep copy. So now what happens? Now E1 has its own set of private instance variables and also the shared resource, and E2 has its own set of private variables and also the shared resource. Okay. So now if you set e2.set name Eknath, it will only be set for E2 like we already know from above. But this time if you do e2.set birthday, it only changes the shared resource for E2 because now the shared resource like both the E1 and E2 have copies of the shared resource. Okay, so that's why the birthday will be changed only for one and not for both. Okay, so this is the difference between shallow copy and deep copy. Okay, now comes the more typical thing, cloning and inheritance both at once. So cloning becomes more complex when inheritance is involved. Obviously you can see that I'm just intuitively. So if a subclass adds additional mutable fields, okay, if a subclass has more additional mutable fields by itself, then the inherited clone method, like even if you have the deep copy code at the parent level, it will not copy the mutable things defined by the child. Okay, for that you need to have additional code. Okay, so in this case the promotion date will not be copied by itself because because the promotion date is defined or the initialized by the promotion date initialized by the manager class. Okay, manager subclass more like. Okay, so we have deep copy code in our employee. Okay, employee, which is the parent class, we have deep copy code here. Okay, but it will not copy the variable defined by the subclass by itself. For that we need additional code. Okay, let's see what the additional code is. First thing, it extends employee. That is fine. These all things are fine, just constructor. Now here comes the main thing. First we are calling the super dot clone. Okay, so as soon as we call super dot clone, what it will copy? It will go to this one. It will go to this clone firstly, and inside this it will first call the super dot clone. So at last what is happening is first line is calling your employee dot clone. Okay, and inside that we are doing two things, shallow copy and mutable copy. So we saw what these two things did. Shallow copy copied the instance variables, and the deep copy part of this code copied the shared resource or pointers. Okay, so this was all that is done by the first line that we saw in the last example. Okay, now here comes the important part for this example, clone dot promotion date. Okay, so promotion date is defined here. Okay, so when this thing is being run, it does not know that what is promotion date. Okay, it is just copying these variables that it has. Okay, that are defined before it. Okay, so that is another way to look at it. So now we need to copy promotion date also to have a full deep copy. Okay, clone dot promotion date. So this is the same thing as we did above for date birthday. So and now we are doing it for the promotion date. Okay, same thing. Okay, and everything is same then. Okay, so shallow copy, M2 gets his own name, comma salary. Okay, M2 gets his own set of instance variables. Okay, because we did the same thing above. Okay, M2 gets its own p date through deep copy. Okay, this line. Okay. Okay. Yeah, see, shallow copy, what it does, M2 gets his own name, salary. Okay, fine. M2 gets his own promotion date through deep copy. Okay, so this line. M2 gets his own p date, promotion date basically through deep copy. Okay, but we have not copied b date explicitly. मतलब basically birthday we have not copied explicitly. Okay, so yeah, okay, so it does not copy, like I said, no, that it will copy, it will run these two lines by itself. It will not actually. So what I understood is, okay, so what I understood is that it does not copy everything by itself. If the parent is copying the anything, okay, अच्छा कुछ ज़्यादा ऊपर चला नहीं, दिस इज फाइन. ओके, अगर दो शेयर्ड हैं बेसिकली एंड चाइल्ड क्लास में भी जो सेम चीज़ है, अगर नहीं से ऐसा ही यहाँ पे, तो बेसिकली जैसे यहाँ पे जो ये वाली लाइन थी बेसिकली विच वाज डीप कॉपिंग द बर्थडे, इट विल नॉट बी रन सुपर डॉट क्लोन डायरेक्टली, बेसिकली क्लोन वाले को ही कॉल करता है विच जस्ट डज द शैलो कॉपी. ओके, मतलब बेसिकली ये बस पहली वाली लाइन रन होगी. ओके, सो इट विल जस्ट शैलो कॉपी. ओके, सो इसका मतलब शैलो कॉपी जैसे ही हुआ, व्हाट इट मींस इज नाउ इट विल ओनली हैव द नेम एंड सैलरी एंड इट विल नॉट हैव द शेयर्ड रिसोर्स विच वाज द बर्थडे. ओके, ओके, मतलब क्या हुआ कि अगर शेयर्ड रिसोर्स हमारा पेरेंट में है, देन यू नीड टू एक्सप्लिसिटली कॉपी इट अगेन. ओके, लाइक जो ये वाली कोड, ये वाला लाइन है, ये वाली लाइन जो है डीप कॉपी वाली, यू नीड टू राइट इट अगेन हियर. ओके, दैट्स व्हाट आई गॉट फ्रॉम चैट जीपीटी. इससे मेरे को भी थोड़ा डाउट है ना, इससे मेरे को भी थोड़ा डाउट है. तो दैट्स व्हाट जीपीटी टोल्ड मी दैट अगर किसी को इसका और भी बेटर वाला एक्सप्रेशन पता है कि लाइक क्यों हुआ ये, डीप डाउट डिटेल में अगर पता है तो फील फ्री टू करेक्ट मी इन द कमेंट्स, है ना. मतलब ऐसा मत समझना कि मेरे को बुरा लग जाएगा. जस्ट करेक्ट मी इफ, बट व्हाट आई एम टेलिंग, व्हाट आई अंडरस्टूड और व्हाट आई गॉट फ्रॉम जीपीटी. ओके, अच्छा हाँ, ये बात बता दूं मैं, बहुत सारे लोगों को लगता है कि लाइक मेरे को सब आता है, मेरे को सब नहीं आता. आई एम अ स्टैंड लोन, जो ये डिग्री है दैट इज माई फर्स्ट टाइम गेटिंग इंट्रोड्यूस टू लाइक कॉलेज लेवल मैथ्स एंड कोडिंग सब्जेक्ट्स. ओके, तो आई डिड नॉट हैव अ मैथ्स बैकग्राउंड, आई डू नॉट हैव अ सीएस बैकग्राउंड, आई हैव अ कम्प्लीटली डिफरेंट बैकग्राउंड. मैं बायो से हूँ, मेरा नीट था, तो आई डू नॉट हैव. ओके, तो ऐसा मत समझना कि मेरे को सब आता है. आई नो वाइल्ड एक्सपीरियंस में शायद हो सकता है मैं बहुत सारी मिस्टेक्स करूँ, मैं ट्राई करता हूँ ना करूँ. आई गो थ्रू दिस ओवर एंड ओवर अगेन. तो बट हो सकता है हो जाए, ऐसा नहीं है कि आई एम लाइक सुपर इम्यून टू एरर्स. ओके, सुपर प्रोन भी नहीं हूँ बट सुपर इम्यून भी नहीं हूँ, तो या फील फ्री टू करेक्ट मी. ओके, okay, anyways, let's move on. Okay, so that's what I saw, that's what I got, that you need to run the shared resource code again. Okay, so basically क्या हो रहा है, बस shallow copy हो रहा है. as soon as you call super dot clone, बस इतना ध्यान रखना, अगर इतना समझ में नहीं आ रहा, कि बस इतना ध्यान रख लेना that super dot clone whenever you are calling it will just shallow copy, that's all. अगर इतना ध्यान रख लो, मैंने क्वेश्चन किए हैं, फाइन हो रहे हैं क्वेश्चन, ऐसा नहीं है कि लाइक ये करेक्ट करने से तुम्हारा क्वेश्चन गलत हो. whenever you call super dot clone, याद रख लेना कि it will just shallow copy, that's all. ओके, तो शैलो कॉपी जैसे ही हुआ, तो इसलिए शैलो कॉपी जैसे ही हुआ, बट शैलो कॉपिंग मींस दैट वी डू नॉट हैव द प्रमोशन डेट जो इसका खुद का है, एंड आल्सो इट डज नॉट हैव द बर्थडे. ओके, ओके, सो now we do deep copy of promotion date. Okay, so now M2 gets his own name and salary from super.clone. M2 gets his own p date through deep copy, which is this line, and then b day changes, मतलब basically birthday changes for both because not deep copied explicitly. Okay, deep copy कहीं नहीं हुआ है ना, तो इसलिए जब हम रन कर रहे हैं तो M2 के लिए नेम तो बदल जाएगा, सिर्फ M2 के लिए बदलेगा बेसिकली. देन सेट बर्थडे अब दोनों के लिए बदल जाएगा, बिकॉज वी हैव नॉट डीप कॉपीड इट एक्सप्लिसिटली. ओके, देन promotion date dot set date, we have explicitly deep copied promotion date, that's why वो बस मतलब जो भी ये प्रमोशन सेट हो रहा है वो बस M2 के लिए सेट होगा, एंड जो प्रमोशन डेट M1 के लिए है जो हमने ऊपर दिखाई है, दैट विल स्टे द सेम एज डिफाइंड अबव. ओके, दैट्स ऑल. ओके, So okay, restrictions on cloning. So there are some restrictions on cloning. Interface: a class must implement the clonable marker interface to use the clone method. Okay, that's what we saw here. It must implement the clonable interface, okay, to use the clone method. Okay. Visibility: the clone method the clone method in object is protected. It must be overridden as public for external use. Basically meaning जब भी तुम override कर रहे हो clone को, it should have the public visibility marker. Okay, visibility modifier. Okay. Then comes exception handling. The clone method throws clone not supported exception. Okay, so if there is any error, then the error will be of type clone not supported exception. Okay, so the subclass must either declare or handle this exception. Okay, so here we have declared it. Okay, clone not supported exception, we have explicitly declared it using the throws word. Okay, throws keyword. Okay, so that was all on cloning. Now comes type inference. Time inference we have already seen. Type inference is nothing but just defining the type of variable you are defining. Okay, int I means that it will be int. Okay, so you cannot store hello here. Okay, so that is all that means by type inference. Okay. However, in recent years, Java has incorporated limited support for type inference to reduce redundancy. Basically meaning, like Python. In Python, if I say I is equal to hello, it will think that I is a string, and if I say j is equal to 2, then it will think j is an integer. Okay, so the Java has now incorporated limited support for this thing. Okay, how Java has incorporated this? It has incorporated using var. So if I say var I is equal to 10, then I becomes an integer. So basically var becomes an integer, and if I say var j is equal to hello, then this var becomes string. Basically meaning j is now a string. Okay, so मैंने यहाँ तक समझा दिया. Local okay, so now key features of type type inference. Okay, type inference का एक और जो यहाँ पे example दे रखा है. Basically employee E1 is equal to new employee. So if you call set name, then it should be present in the reference. Okay, basically since E2 is an employee reference, so the set name should be present in the employee class. Okay. In this example, E1 and E2 are explicitly declared as employee object. The compiler ensures type safety by verifying that the assignments and operations involving these variables, basically meaning E2 is equal to E1. अब E1 अगर completely different thing है, okay? मतलब कुछ है ही नहीं. E1 is dog. E1 is animal. Okay, so then नहीं होगा. So Java will say that it is not compatible. Okay. And also then comes this method calling. Okay, so the whatever method you are calling should be defined in the reference. Okay, verifying the assignment operation involving these variables are consistent with the employee type. Okay, set name should be present in E1. That's all it means. E1 or E2. Okay. Local variables. Okay, so now the key features. So first thing is local variables only. Type inference is applicable only for local variables within methods or blocks, not for instance variables or method parameters. What it means is, if you are defining a method, okay, if I'm defining a class, let's say, and these instance variables, now you know what are instance variables. These are instance variables. Okay, so you cannot say var name. Okay, if you're defining an instance variables, it need to be defined explicitly as string or whatever you want it to be. Okay, so that's all it means. And second thing is, or method parameters. Method parameters mean if a method is taking an input, for example this one set name is taking a name as an input, so that should be defined, string name. Okay, what type of input it will take, that should be defined. Okay, so these two things should not be cannot be used by var. Okay. Second is mandatory initialization. Variable declared with var must be initialized at the time of declaration. Basically meaning, if you say var I, so you need to have something right there. Okay, you need to declare it and instantiate at the same time. Okay, var I is equal to 10. Okay, so you need to do this at the same time. Var I, and then later at some point of code you do I is equal to 10. This will not work. Okay, you have to instantiate and declare it at the same time. Second, inference for initialization. The compiler determines the type of variable based on the expression used to initialize it. Like we saw, var I is equal to 10, then I is an integer. Okay, see, यहाँ पे var name is equal to true, so it will be inferred as string, it will be inferred as double. Okay, var, now here you can while while using it, you see that var employee is equal to new employee. So now this var becomes an employee type, okay, inferred as employee, okay. So basically var is equal to employee, okay. In this example, the type of each variable is inferred from its initialization. For instance, name is inferred as string, salary as double, and employee as employee, okay. So employee, we are saying that new employee, basically whatever follows the new will be what var becomes, okay. So next, benefits of type inference. Benefits is the same thing. You do not need to write it again and again. Like every time you say a variable, you have to define it int, j, str, k, whatever. Okay. For example, manager m is equal to new manager. It can be simplified to this thing. Okay. It also reduces the code. It improves readability. Simplifies code by reducing clutter, especially in cases involving generics or complex type hierarchies. Okay. If there's a long code and a lot of generics, then it becomes even more apparent that using var is way more efficient than type inferencing everything. Okay. Then enhanced productivity. Obviously, if you you don't need to think of everything at first. Like if you want to declare a let's say I do not have have var. Let's say I do not have var. Then I need to have m as manager, and I have to think of it at first. Like as soon as I write this, I have to know that m will be a manager. Okay, but in this case, I do not need to know. I just need to know what will be general. Okay, allows developers to focus on logic rather than writing verbose type annotations. Okay, so now what are the limitations? Limited scope, because we saw that it is a limited support. Okay. Applicable only to local variables. Instance variables and method parameters still require explicit type declaration, as we saw above. Potential ambiguity. Without explicit type, understanding the inferred type requires examining the initialization expression. Okay, basically what the thing is that you have to initialize it at that place only. Okay, you cannot just say var m and then initialize it later on, which it does not work. Okay. Initialization requirement. Variables declared with var must be initialized, like we saw. Precision. The inferred type is more specific. Obviously, if you are explicitly specifying that int is m is an int, then nothing can be more specific than that. Okay. For instance, var e is equal to new manager. Here e is inferred as manager. Okay, fine. E is inferred as manager. If e should have been employee, an explicit declaration is required. Okay. So this thing works. This thing works fine. But in this case, E will be inferred as manager. But if I know E is an employee, then I cannot use var. Then I have to use the explicit declaration. Okay. Then propagation of inferred types. It is a simple topic. Basically meaning if s is equal to hello, so now s is a string, and if I do a string operation with s and store it in t, then t will also be a string. That's all. That's all propagation is. Okay. Static type checking. Okay, static type checking is also simple. See, we have two things: employee and manager. Both have declaration. E is employee and m is manager. E is equal to m. If I say this, this is firstly allowed due to subtyping because manager extends employee. So now fine. And now if I say var x is equal to e, so x is actually an employee now because e originally is an employee. Okay. What this line does is it basically meaning employee E is equal to manager M. This line is basically saying this. Okay, so E stays an employee. So as soon as you say var x is equal to E, so x is an employee now. And if you call x dot bonus, it will be a compilation error because bonus is not defined for employee; it is only defined for managers. Okay, so that's why it gives a compilation error. Employee does not have a bonus method. So that is all type checking is. Okay. Now comes higher order functions, which gave me a lot of headache. Okay. A higher order function is a function that takes another function as an argument. So if I'm writing a function, let's say divide, and it takes another sort function as its input. Okay, then this becomes a higher order function. Okay, how it is achieved? It is achieved through firstly it is achieved through interfaces or lambda expression or method references. Okay. So now we will see it one by one. Firstly, we will see callbacks example. Okay, just to show what is a higher order function. Okay, we have seen the callbacks example if you remember. Okay, so I will just loop through it once. Okay, so first we define timer owner. Okay, so only thing different from the quiz one code example of timer and this one is just in quiz one example we didn't use the runnable interface. We are using the runnable interface here. That's all. Okay. So let's see. These all things you already know. Okay. Let's start from here. Okay. Main. Let's start from main. Okay. So first we define a my class, new object of my class. This is fine. Okay. Now we are passing this my class to the timer. Okay. What it does is it creates a new timer object with my class as owner. Okay, so who is the owner, which will be called eventually when the specific thing is done. In this case, when the timer has done, it will call some method defined on the owner. So owner in our case is my class. My class is called back when the timer is done. Then we just timer dot start. Okay, now actually running it. So implements runnable. Runnable is just an interface to implement to actually run these things. Okay, run timers and all. Okay. So firstly, private. My dog does not want. Okay. So firstly, we first have a variable to store the owner actually. Okay. Then is basically starting the not starting. Never mind. So public timer. This dot owner is equal to owner, which is basically setting the context. Okay. It is basically storing the owner. Okay. Public void, and at last we start the timer. Actually, new thread this dot start basically starts a new parallel thread with this is equal to the timer itself. Okay, basically starting timer in the parallel thread. Basically, it is starting the timer in a parallel thread. That's all. Don't go into specifics. Okay. After that, we are running it. Thread.sleep 5000, it is similarly in the timer, and then when it is done sleeping for that time, we are calling the timer done. So timer done will be called an owner. What the owner is our original my class, so it will call my class dot timer done, and at last it will print this line system dot out dot timer has expired. That's all. Okay, so I looped through this once just for example. Okay, customizing behavior with comparator. Okay, the comparator interface is a practical example of higher order function in Java. It allows customization of the arrays.sort method by specifying the comparison function. Okay, what it said. So basically, comparator is an interface. Firstly, which is a good example of higher order functions in Java. What it does, it allows customization of the arrays.sort method. There is a method in Java that is arrays.sort, and it lets us customize this by specifying a comparison function. We can define a specific comparison function. Okay, how we do this? Let's go down and see. First, we have a string. Okay, which we will basically sort. Let's say, then arrays.sort strings, and it takes this thing. Okay, this takes the comparator and defines that we will compare strings. Okay, so firstly here we are just saying that we will have a new comparator. Okay, which will take in strings, and after that what we are overriding the compare method, saying that we will compare two strings. Okay, so this is your actual comparison logic. Okay, what it did, firstly we just defined it. Firstly, in the definition of the method, we just said that firstly it will have what to compare, like basically the list to compare, and it will have a new comparator basically. So new comparator function. Okay, so new comparator string, and what it will compare it. Basically, what we use it to compare in this specific case, basically this is type parameter from week 5 or 6, basically whichever it is. So it will compare strings in this case. Okay, that's all we said in this line, and then we actually define the comparison logic here. Okay, and at last we just print it. Okay. Now comes next thing, which is functional interfaces. Functional interfaces are interfaces with a single abstract method. If any interface has a single abstract method, then it just becomes the functional interface. Okay, what are the examples? Examples are comparator, which was this comparator. It only has one method, which is the compare method, and timer owner method, like we saw above. Okay. So what they do, they enable passing behavior using anonymous classes or lambda expressions. Okay. So what are anonymous classes? Like we used above. Okay, this was our anonymous class. Okay, then we defined the function in like actual comparison logic inside it. Okay, and lambda expressions, we will see this now. So lambda expressions, anyone who have worked with Python and good depth, then they know what a lambda expression. So lambda expressions are anonymous function that can be used wherever a functional interface is required. Okay, so they are concise, basically writing a one-line function. That's all. Lambda expression is writing a function in one line. That's all. I don't go into so much things. Okay, so let's see. We are doing the same thing, just using lambda functions, lambda expression. First we call this. So this is the syntax for lambda. Okay, what it does, it takes two strings, okay, takes two strings s1 and s2, and then it compares them using this logic and returns the difference between their lengths, okay. And at last this all thing is passed to sort, okay. So in this we have not used this thing, okay. In this we have not used this thing. It is a general sort that we have done, okay, that Java does by itself, okay. And we just change how things are passed to it, okay. How we did that: first we pass the list itself, then we will say that okay, to compare two things, what you return when comparing two things is the difference of their lengths, okay. So in this example s1, this thing is a lambda expression that replaces the anonymous class implementation. So we did not need to write so many things, okay. Instead of this many things, we just wrote one single line and it works fine, okay. Now there comes complex lambda expression, okay. So you can just keep adding complexity to lambda expressions. For example, if I have more than one if statement, I can also do that. So in this one, instead of just one thing like that, just return this, we are actually checking things and then returning based on our conditions, okay. So if s1 dot length is less than this, return this. If this condition meets, then return this, else returns this, okay. So we can keep adding the complexity in this, okay. Now comes another thing, method references. So this took a whole long time for me. If lambda expression consists of single method call, it can be replaced by method reference, okay. If the lambda expression consists of a single method call, only one method call is present inside the lambda expression, then we can replace it with a method reference. So method references simplifies code further by directly referencing existing methods, okay? So code example. Let's first see the method syntaxes, okay. So there are four main syntaxes. First is static method, which is the class name, proportion sign, method name. What is this called? Equivalent sign, whatever this is, okay? Double colon, let's say double colon, better, okay. Okay, so this double colon, so what it does, okay, main thing is what it does, points to a method shared by a whole group or class. In this case it's class, okay. So what it does is, so whatever the class name is here, okay, and the this method name basically should be contained inside this class name, okay. Like for example, if I have manager here, let's say our class is manager, and I can call the method, which method I can call bonus, because bonus is shared by my class manager, okay. Basically every object that is of the class manager will have access to the bonus of method, okay. So this is the first thing, that is static method. Second is instance method of a specified object. Now we are calling on a specified object, okay. So object double colon method name. So this method name will be called on this specific object, okay. And the example of this is this thing, okay. See, whatever the list is, this is just an array. Now see this, strings dot for each system dot out println. So system dot out is your object and println is the method being called, okay. So what it does is, for each, basically it will iterate over this. So let's say first iteration, so first iteration it will take apple, system dot out, which is the object, becomes apple, and the println, which is the method name, is being called on it, and it will just print this, okay. So basically it is printing the apple first. For the n is basically the second iteration. Now system dot out object becomes banana, and it just prints the banana, okay. So that's how it works, okay. So now comes the third syntax, which is instance method of arbitrary object of a class. So basically so this one points to a method on one specific object, okay. So now the third thing, class name, method name. So what is the difference between this and this, first and third? So third points to a method that works on any object from that class, but the higher order function will pick which one, okay. What did it mean? So let's see the example, string and then length. So what it will do is, it will get the length of whichever string you give it. So string is the class, okay, and length is the method being called on it, okay. Okay, so the main difference kya hua? Main difference is, this is a static method, okay. So static method does not depend on what it is being called upon, okay. And instance method is actually dependent on this, okay. Let's and it is later on decided which with what will be called, okay. Let's say, okay, let's see, it's a simple example, okay. Let's say I have two methods inside one class, that is kids class, okay. So kids class, and I have two methods. count kids and say name. Okay. So what so count kids, what count kids is basically counting the kids. Okay, fine. So count kids does not implicitly need any input for it. Okay, it can just count it. But if I want to say name, okay, say name requires an input of which a kid needs to say the name. Okay, so the first the example for the first one will be any of the kids class, like let's say kids all itself, and then count kids. Okay. So what it will do, it is since it is a static and general method, it will just count the kids and return the number. Okay. But if I say the third example, it will not be like I can do this, because say name. Okay. If I call say name of which kid, okay, there can be a lot of kids. Okay. Which kid will say the name? Okay. So at this point, Java decides that which kid will say his name depending on what calls it. Okay, let's say Raju. Okay, Raju is calling this. So then if I have said that kids and say name, then Raju's name will be given. Okay, so Java decides that based on the what is being called. Okay, I explained this here. Okay, see, static, this line I cannot really mark it. So the real world example, static playground kids, a shared rule that count all kids as one, no specific kid needed, but instance arbitrary kid double colon say name. Okay. So yeah, light, I can do this lol. Okay, this line, static playground count kids, a shared rule to count all kids at once, no specific kid needed. Okay, it does not really need a specific kid, it can just be called on the class itself and it can return the kids number. Okay, but if it's an instance arbitrary kid say name, a personal trick where any kid can say their own name, but you need to point it to a kid first. Okay, obviously you need a kid to say the name. Okay, so that's the difference between the first and the second, third. And the fourth is just the constructor, calling the constructor points to the builder method of that class. Okay, so the constructor, we have been given an example. Wow, this took a lot of time for me also. Okay, first thing is this thing. Okay, it is being called, so function string comma integer, basically meaning that it takes an input string and it output will be an integer. Okay, and integer double colon new, it is pointing to the builder of integer class. Okay, pointing to the builder of integer class, which does what basically integer is a built-in class, which if you pass the string as 1 2 3 and 4 or 4 1 5, it just returns this the same thing to you as an integer. Okay, that's all it does. Okay, so what it does, what we gave it, we first define two things. It takes in a string as input and it outputs an integer. Okay, we define that, then we define just a variable, and then we call the constructor. Okay, and with new. Okay, yeah. Okay, so integer class which does 1 2 3 and it will call this. So we called it basically meaning pointing to the builder of integer class, which will basically create this basically. Okay, and then we use the apply. Okay, so apply 1 2 3, which is basically how you do it, apply on. Okay, apply on 1 2 3. So basically now 1 2 3 string is being passed to the integer, and what it does is the integer class by itself converts it to integer. Okay, that's how it does. So now let's come to the last topic of this week 8, streams. Okay, so we have already worked with arrays and all. Streams just provides us with a lot more functionality and a lot more usability when it comes to the working with a long data. Okay, long type of data. So what it does, Java Stream offers an alternative declarative and functional approach for working with collections. Okay, so it is used for working with collections. Streams enable operations such as filtering, mapping, reducing, often in more concise and readable manner. Okay, so if you have to define some filtering or mapping, then you have to do if and all on a collection. Okay, so streams just simplify the process with very few lines and with more usability. Okay, so we will see two ways to do it. First is what we have learned till now, for counting long words. We want to count long words, and how we define long words, whatever the length is, it should be greater than 10, then it becomes a long word for us in this example. Okay, so let's see. So using the traditional way, you know how to do it. You just iterate over each entry here, and you check the word dot length, okay, and then increase the count. Okay, this is the traditional way. Now comes using streams. See the length of the code, how short it is. Okay, so what you do, this is the syntax. Long count is equal to, first you define a stream, words dot stream. Okay, what you define the streams on actually precedes the dot stream thing. Okay, so we have a words array here, so we want to create a stream of this array, so we say words dot stream. Now on the words dot stream, on this particular stream, what we want to do, we want to filter. And what is the filtering condition? For each w, check w dot length is greater than 10 or not. If it is, basically if it is not, it will just continue on to the next one, and if it is, then it will just store this. Okay, so but basically after the filter operation is done, what will do, it will store all the names which has a length greater than 10, which is basically this one, and the fourth one and fifth one. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, no, this one. So it will just store this one and this one, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Yeah, so 2 and 5th, it will just store them, and then it will count that it has 2 entries, so it will return the count as 2. Okay, so first this will work step by step. Okay, लेट्स गो वर्ड अगेन. पहले क्या कर रहा है, वो बेसिकली जो भी एरे है अपना, उसके ऊपर एक स्ट्रीम को डिफाइन कर रहा है. स्ट्रीम इज लाइक फ्लोइंग. ओके, रिवर मान लो एक. सो बेसिकली इस रिवर में ये जो पूरी लिस्ट है ये फ्लो कर रही है ना, इट जस्ट कीप फ्लोइंग, एंड वी हैव अ फिल्टर हियर. छन्नी लगा दी आपने. इस छन्नी से कौन कौन पास हो सकता है? w डॉट लेंथ ग्रेटर देन 10, मतलब बेसिकली सिर्फ वो वर्ड्स यहाँ से छन्नी से पास हो सकते हैं जिनकी लेंथ ग्रेटर देन 10 है. सो पहले ये पूरा फिल्टर रन होगा, जिससे हमें क्या रिटर्न होगा, ये दोनों रिटर्न होंगे. मतलब यहाँ पे 2 और 5th वर्ड है ना. एंड देन इट विल जस्ट काउंट, मतलब ये यहाँ पे काउंटर लगा हुआ है कि कितने हिट हो रहे हैं. सो 2 हिट हुए, तो इस विल जस्ट रिटर्न द 2. ओके, अब वाई यूज स्ट्रीम्स. पहले तो तुम्हें दिख ही रहा है काफी कोड काफी छोटा हो गया. सेकंड, काफी इजी हो गया कोड, है ना. एंड डिक्लेरेटिव स्टाइल, फोकस ऑन व्हाट टू कंप्यूट. ओके, हमें बस इतने पे ध्यान रखना है कि हमें क्या कंप्यूट करना है. हमें कंप्यूट का करना है काउंट ऑफ लॉन्ग वर्ड्स. ओके, बाकी जो ये फिल्टर है, डॉट काउंट है, ये सब हमें डिफाइन करने की जरूरत नहीं है. दैट इज बीइंग डिफाइंड इटसेल्फ बाय द स्ट्रीम. ओके, सेकंड इज पैरेलल प्रोसेसिंग. पैरेलल प्रोसेसिंग इज इफ यू डिफाइन, जैसे हमने यहाँ पे डायरेक्ट स्ट्रीम डिफाइन किया, डायरेक्ट डॉट स्ट्रीम डिफाइन किया, अगर हम इसको डॉट पैरेलल स्ट्रीम कर दें, सो इट विल स्ट्रीम लाइक इट विल प्रोसेस द वर्ड्स साइमल्टेनियसली. लाइक एक वक्त पे एक W फर्स्ट वाला W1 हो रहा है, उसी वक्त पे W2 भी प्रोसेस हो रहा है. इस तरह से काउंट्स मल्टीपल W's एट वंस पैरेलली. एंड जब ये सारा फिल्टर का ऑपरेशन हो गया, उसके बाद इट विल जस्ट काउंट. ओके, सो यहाँ पे रिटर्न से भी 2 ही होगा, बट द प्रोसेसिंग स्पीड विल बी मच फास्टर. ओके, थर्ड इज लेजी इवैल्यूएशन. स्ट्रीम्स प्रोसेस एलिमेंट्स ओनली व्हेन नीडेड, ऑप्टिमाइजिंग परफॉर्मेंस. ओके, इसका कोई मतलब उतना समझा नहीं मेरे को. सपोर्ट फॉर इन्फिनिट स्ट्रीम्स. स्ट्रीम्स कैन जनरेट वैल्यूज डायनामिकली इवन फॉर इन्फिनिट सीक्वेंस. सो बेसिकली डायनामिक जनरेशन फॉर इन्फिनिट सीक्वेंसेस, जिसका एग्जांपल हम अभी आगे दिखेंगे. ओके, सो नाउ आता है वर्किंग विद स्ट्रीम्स, हाउ वी एक्चुअली वर्क विद स्ट्रीम्स. सो फर्स्ट वी नीड टू ऑब्वियसली क्रिएट अ स्ट्रीम. ओके, सो स्ट्रीम क्रिएशन के कुछ अलग अलग तरीके होते हैं. फर्स्ट, इफ यू वांट टू डिफाइन अ स्ट्रीम ऑन अ कलेक्शन, तो तुम्हारा सिंटैक्स ये है ना. सिंटैक्स ध्यान रखना, 2 ही इंपॉर्टेंट सिंटैक्स टू बी ऑनेस्ट. ओके, तो अगर कलेक्शन भी डिफाइन करना है, तो दिस इज योर सिंटैक्स. अगर डायरेक्ट तुम्हारा एरे है, अगर उस पर तुम्हें डिफाइन करना है, तो दिस इज योर क्या कहते हैं, सिंटैक्स. ओके, अब आता है जनरेटर वैल्यूज. इफ यू वांट जनरेटर वैल्यूज, सो यू कैन से स्ट्रीम डॉट जनरेट एंड जस्ट गिव द फंक्शन. ओके, so this is a syntax. ये क्या कर रहा है, it will just basically produce an infinite stream of echoes words. मतलब echo जो word है, उसका एक infinite stream बनाएगा. basically क्या हो रहा है, अगर तुम्हारा मान लो ये stream है, तो echo ऐसे infinitely just flow कर रहे हैं, इसमें बहुत सारे echo words ऐसे, बस यही हो रहा है. वहीं पे अगर हम यहाँ पे stream dot generate math और colon random करते हैं, सो दिस फंक्शन, ओके, पहले हम इसको डायसेक्ट करते हैं. मैथ रैंडम, ये क्या कर रहा है, ये बेसिकली तुम्हें एक रैंडम जनरेट कर रहा है, रैंडम नंबर जनरेट कर रहा है. सो दिस एंड ये पूरी चीज तुम्हारी क्या कर रही है, स्ट्रीम ऑफ रैंडम डबल्स बिटवीन 0 and 1. ओके, है ना, ध्यान रखना, डबल है ये, है ना. So it will just create a infinite stream of random doubles between 0 and 1. Okay. अब ये हो गया स्ट्रीम डॉट जनरेट से हम कैसे कर सकते हैं. सेकंड इज स्ट्रीम डॉट आइट्रेट. ओके, दो तरीके जनरेट वैल्यूज जनरेट करने के हमारे पास दो तरीके हैं, एक जनरेट डॉट जनरेट और एक डॉट आइट्रेट. सो हाउ डज आइट्रेट वर्क? आइट्रेट इज मोर used for integers. Okay, जहाँ पे तुम्हें like you want some condition to stop also, or you want to have some iteration type of stream, then you can use the iterate. Okay, like here we are using stream dot iterate. So it will start from 0 and then it will just increase the number by 1. So what it does is, अगर ये तुम्हारी stream है तो पहले में 0 आया, फिर 1, फिर 2, फिर 3, फिर 4, फिर 5, फिर 6, ऐसे इन्फिनिटली ये चलता जाएगा. 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 ऐसे चलता रहेगा. स्ट्रीम ऑफ नंबर्स फ्रॉम 0 टिल चलता रहेगा. अब देखो इन्फिनाइट स्ट्रीम्स हमेशा हमें जरूरत नहीं पड़ता. ऑब्वियसली देखो जब कभी ना कभी मेमोरी आउट ऑफ रन मेमोरी से बाहर जाओगे तुम, और इन्फिनिट स्ट्रीम का तुम रियल वर्ल्ड सिनारियो कुछ है भी नहीं एज मतलब बहुत ज्यादा. ओके, इवन इफ यू आर नीडिंग सम रैंडम नंबर्स, तुम्हें एक लाइक कुछ टर्मिनेशन कंडीशन तो हमेशा चाहिए होगी, वरना इट विल जस्ट कीप ऑन एडिंग द लाइक जनरेटिंग द स्ट्रीम्स. ओके, सो विद टर्मिनेशन कंडीशन अब हम क्या है, हमने जनरेट करना सीख लिया, हमने किसी चीज को स्ट्रीम में कन्वर्ट करना सीख लिया. हमें अब अगर स्ट्रीम चल रही है, वी नीड टर्मिनेशन कंडीशन. सो हाउ टू डू दैट? सो वो आइट्रेशन पे करना सबसे आसान है. स्ट्रीम डॉट आइट्रेट, यू जस्ट पुट अ कंडीशन, जैसे कि तुम फॉर लूप के इनिशियलाइजेशन में करते हो, वैसे ही तुम यहाँ पे एक टर्मिनेशन कंडीशन डाल दोगे, n लेस देन 100. ओके, कीप्स आइट्रेटिंग फ्रॉम 0 टिल 99. ओके, जैसे ही 100 आया वो स्टॉप हो जाएगा. ओके, दिस इज हाउ यू स्टॉप एड अ टर्मिनेशन कंडीशन. उसके बाद आता है ट्रांसफॉर्मिंग स्ट्रीम्स. ओके, हमने क्रिएट करना सीख लिया, अब हम कैसे इस पे काम कर रहे हैं, हम इसको कैसे ट्रांसफॉर्म करते हैं, हम इससे कैसे वैल्यूज निकालते हैं या उस पर वर्क करते हैं. दैट्स ऑल, that what we will be seeing. Okay, so first thing is filtering. जो हमने फिल्टर ऊपर भी देखा, w.length greater than 10, मतलब हमने एक छन्नी लगा दी है ना, और वही only those words will pass through it which has a length greater than 10. Okay, mapping. Second is mapping. If I want to have a function or something that will be applied to each of those elements in the stream. Okay, so now मान लो यहाँ पे एक स्टैम्प लगा हुआ है ना, यहाँ पे एक स्टैम्प लगा हुआ है जो ऊपर नीचे हो रहा है. जैसे ही एक जैसे फैक्ट्री में होता है, जैसे ही एक फिल्टर होके एक वर्ड आया, इस पर थप्पा लग गया ग्रेटर देन 10, वैसे ही उसके बाद सेकंड आया, उससे भी थप्पा लग गया ऐसे. ओके, सो यहाँ पे वही एग्जांपल दिया हुआ है. तो हम पहले क्या कर रहे हैं, पहले तो हम बस एक स्ट्रीम बना रहे हैं. सेकंड वी आर फिल्टरिंग फिल्टर्स विद लेंथ ग्रेटर देन 10. उसके बाद जो भी फिल्टर हुआ, एवरी वर्ड दैट इज बीइंग फिल्टर्ड इज बीइंग मैप्ड टू दिस फंक्शन. That it is just substringing that. Okay, so not much important that what it is doing, how is map being worked, that is more important here. So it is applied on each filtered word. Okay, so next thing is flattening. Okay, combine nested in a single stream. Okay, so what does flat do? It basically like if you have a banana, okay, if you flatten it, it will just be BANANA and each character can be accessed now. मतलब basically अगर पहले बनाना पूरा stream में आ रहा था, मतलब बनाना as a whole stream में आ रहा था ना, अब तुम्हारे stream में BANANA ये सारे अलग अलग as individual elements आ रहे हैं stream में, है ना. That's all flattening is, and the syntax is just this. Okay, ओके, उसके बाद आता है मैनेजिंग स्ट्रीम साइज. हमने एक चीज ऊपर ही देख ली कि हम कैसे उसको लिमिट कर रहे हैं. देयर आर अदर मेथड्स आल्सो टू मैनेजिंग द स्ट्रीम साइज. फर्स्ट इज लिमिटिंग, दैट वी ऑलरेडी सॉ. ओके, हमने आइटरेटर तो देख ही लिया, बट मान लो तुम आइटरेटर के साथ काम नहीं कर रहे, इफ यू आर वर्किंग विद समथिंग डिफरेंट, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल जनरेट, यू कैन ऐड द डॉट लिमिट. ओके, सो 100 random doubles between 0 and 1 will be generated here. Okay, you can just directly say dot limit. Okay, skipping. Second thing is skipping. If you want to skip a certain number of elements, for example, we are skipping 10 here. Okay, so it will keep generating from the first. Okay, like जैसे मान लो अगर हम डबल्स की जगह मान लो मैं रैंडम इंटीजर जनरेट कर रहा हूँ, 0 1 2 3 4 ऐसे करके मैं 100 जनरेट कर रहा हूँ. सो इट विल जस्ट स्किप द 0 to 10. ओके, सो ये फर्स्ट के 10 जो भी हैं, फर्स्ट के 10 आइट्रेशन इट विल स्किप, या फर्स्ट के 10 जनरेटेड वैल्यूज इट विल स्किप, एंड इट विल जनरेट द स्ट्रीम फॉर द elements from the 11th generated. Okay, 11th number, like that. Okay, So इसके दो चीजें हैं, कंडीशनल स्टॉपिंग, ओके ना सॉरी, इसके नेक्स्ट चीज है कंडीशनल स्टॉपिंग, जिसके दो तरीके, टेक वाइल एंड ड्रॉप वाइल. टेक वाइल इज it will stop when the condition becomes false. ध्यान से देखना यहाँ पे, it will stop when a condition becomes false. Dot take while n greater than or equal to 5. Okay, so this condition, what it will do is it will stop as soon as random double which is generated is less than 0.5. Okay, so मतलब greater than or equal to है, and जैसे ही ये condition false होती है, as soon as this condition becomes false, it will stop. Okay, सो मान लो 0.36 जनरेट हो रहा है, 0.7 जनरेट हो रहा है, 0.8 जनरेट हो रहा है, 0.92 जनरेट हो रहा है, these are all fine, but as soon as something like 0.1 is generated, it will stop. Okay, second is drop while. This starts when the condition becomes false, this stops when the condition becomes false, this starts when the condition becomes false. मतलब जब ये condition false होगी तब ये loop start होगा, मतलब उसके बाद से stream में actually चीजें दिखनी शुरू होंगी या stream में add होना शुरू होंगी. So it starts after it gets the first randomly generated double to be greater than 0.05. मतलब 0.01 हो रहा है नहीं चलेगा, 0.04 हो रहा है नहीं चलेगा, 0.003 हो रहा है नहीं चलेगा, but as soon as 0.6 जनरेट हुआ, which is greater than 0.05, अब से स्टार्ट हो जाएगा ये. ओके, अब से स्टार्ट हो जाएगा, 0.6 के बाद से this elements will become visible in the stream. Okay, next is reducing streams. Okay, फर्स्ट इज काउंटिंग, जो हमने देखा काउंट कैसे करना है ना, हाउ मेनी रैंडमली जनरेटेड डबल्स ग्रेटर देन 0.1. ओके, यहाँ जैसे हमने पहले यहाँ पे 10 देखा था, यहाँ पे हम फिल्टर क्या लगा रहे हैं, 0.1 से ग्रेटर इंटीजर. ओके, सॉरी 0.1 से ग्रेटर डबल. ओके, दिस इज द काउंट. नेक्स्ट इज फाइंडिंग मैक्सिमम मिनिमम. ओके, सो हाउ टू फाइंड द मैक्सिमम मिनिमम. हमारे पास डायरेक्ट चीज है, वी कैन जस्ट अप्लाई डॉट मैक्स. ओके, and we just call the compare to, and it is a shortcut type to compare numbers. Okay, compare to, this thing is just a shortcut to compare numbers. Okay, so max. Okay, and after that we can add if present or else. Okay, so if present or else, what it will do is, so this will be your if present. Okay, max system dot मतलब basically अगर max है तो it will print, else अगर नहीं है तो it will just print no maximum value found. Okay, so else में बहुत रेयरली शायद जाएगा या फिर शायद ना भी जाए, बिकॉज अगर दो भी नंबर जनरेट हो रहे हैं, वन विल बी मैक्स और वन विल बी मिनिमम. ओके, तो या अगर एक ही जनरेट हो रहा है तो स्टिल इट इज स्टिल वही मैक्सिमम है, वही मिनिमम है. या फिर अगर बेसिकली आई डू नॉट नो हाउ कंपेयर टू वर्क्स इन डेप्थ, सो बेसिकली ये तुम्हारा क्या कर रहा है ये मैंने समझा दिया. ओके, compare to is basically comparing, and अगर at the end of the iteration अगर मेरे पास max है, then it will print the maximum run number, या अगर नहीं है तो it will just print no maximum value found. वैसे ही finding the first element, जो कि हमारा last topic है. finding the first element क्या कर रहा है, अगर मान लो तुम्हारा जो filter element है, यहाँ से हमने filter लगा रखा है, यहाँ से 2, 5 मान लो और भी आया है, 8, 10 ये सब फिल्टर होके आया है. अब मेरे को निकालना है ओनली दिस फर्स्ट वन, मतलब जो सबसे पहले फिल्टर से पास हुआ. I just want that element which has passed the filter the first. Okay, so I can just say find first. Okay, so what these 3 lines is done, these 2 lines is doing, first is filtering, grabs the first one that is greater than 0.999. Okay, greater than, let's say 0.999 is 1, मान लो 1 मतलब 0.999. Okay, 0.8 हो रहा है, 0.03 हो रहा है, ऐसे बहुत सारे आ रहे हैं, which will यहाँ पे नहीं होगा, 0.08, 0.6, 0.0012 ऐसे आ रहे हैं. दिस विल ऑल बी स्टॉप बाय दिस फिल्टर. मान लो सबसे पहला आया यहाँ पे 1. ओके, और इसके जस्ट पीछे आ रहा है 1, उसके बाद 2, है ना. तो 1 ऑब्वियसली इज ग्रेटर देन 0.999, सो इट विल पास. 1 आ गया, 2 भी पास कर जाएगा. बट what does find first do? It will find the first element that passed the filter. Okay, so in this case we have the one which was passed the filter first, grabs the first one that is greater than 0.999. Okay, and in the same thing that मान लो अब यहाँ पे else का ज्यादा सेंस बनता है, बिकॉज मान लो कोई एलिमेंट ऐसा है ही नहीं, मतलब 0.1 है एंड 0.2 है, तो नाउ नथिंग विल पास दिस फिल्टर. ओके, सो इन दैट केस फाइंड फर्स्ट विल जस्ट बी रिटर्निंग एम्प्टी. ओके, सो num is if the num is present, which is the first which has passed the filter, then it will pass the first number, and if it is not present, like no element has passed the filter, then it will just print no number greater than 0.999 found. Okay, so with that everything is done. Week 5 to 8 is done, week 1 to 4 is done. All the best for quiz. I will try, not try, I will upload 2 PYQs tomorrow. Okay. I'll try my best to be tomorrow do both the PYQs, but if not, max to max Saturday morning, both PYQs will be done. I am not promising 3 PYQs this time because time is low. Okay, but two will be there. Do one by yourself. Okay. And if I can, I will at least provide the third PYQ solved by me. Okay, if I can, but two is a promise. Okay. So yeah, all the best.